Hello everyone, Zellerant here, and today we're going to take a look at Krolik. She's a unit that you see that's bottom on the tier list. A lot of things showing that she has very little value in comparison to teams. But I'm here to kind of tell you that she actually has a lot of value, especially right now at the beginning of the game. If you're like me, a lot of people I know were doing the re-rolling to get Jeonju at the top here. And then if you're wanting to go with that burn team and you don't have a bunch of the other SSRs to work alongside her, except maybe Suomi that you also got, then your team is going to work really well with her. With your introductory SR units are going to be Sharkry, which I already covered in my last video. And then you're going to have Krolik to kind of be your main unit for applying Overburn on the enemies while we're waiting for a better unit to come out in the future that can apply Overburn. Now, if you remember from my previous video on Sharkry, a big thing that she wants to be able to really reduce an enemy's stability so that you can do a lot of damage to them is placing Overburn on the enemy. And Overburn on her gives her the capability to do her own support attacks similar to Jeonju. So with Sharkly and Jeonju, if you have a unit that's putting Overburn on enemies, it's going to significantly boost their damage. And that is something that Krolik can do right out the gate. And it's a free unit that everybody will have available at the beginning of the game as she is given for free. So the first one we'll take a look at here is her passive. So on her passive, the skill is when attacking a target with Overburn, increases damage dealt by 15%. And then at the end of action, applies Overburn to the 2 closest enemy targets within 5 tiles for 2 turns. So that's the key thing with her right off the bat. Her passive, the 2 closest enemies to her are going to get Overburn on them. And so that's going to be the trigger to make it where you can get a lot of the benefits for Sharkry right off the bat. Just that by itself is going to be activating a lot of Sharkry's capabilities just by having Krolik in your team and near the enemies. And then we'll go ahead and take a look at her basic now. With her basic, it's a targeted melee attack, stability damage of 1. Select one target with 1 tile, deal melee physical damage equal to 80% attack to them. Now, this is the kind of key weakness of your melee units, which there's only currently 2 in the game, with Ulrid being the other, is that, yeah, with your basic attack, you're going to have only 1 tile that you can work with, but that's kind of the core part of her kit, is you're going to be bringing her close to enemies, because that's part of where you're also going to be triggering her passive, which you have to be within 5 tiles of them to get that Overburn. So not going to be too much of an issue because you're going to be wanting getting close quarters with her. When we take a look at her first skill here, this one has a stability damage of 1. You'll select one enemy target within 1 tile and deal AoE melee physical damage equal to 120% of attack to it and all enemy targets within a 3x3 area around it. Gain 1 point of Confectance Index. If the target is in stability break, ignore 30% of their defense. If there are no other allied units within 3 tiles, after attacking, gain 5 tiles of additional movement. So this is going to be a key component of her kit. And so there's a couple parts here when you kind of think of the team that she's going to be working with. So first, you're going to be able to do AoE damage. So you're going to be able to damage a bunch of enemies that are kind of close to each other. So that's the first part here. Then you have the part, if the target is in stability break, she'll be able to ignore 30% of their defense. As I already said with Sharkry, her entire kit revolves around breaking breaking the stability of enemies when they have Overburn, which Krolik is applying to them. And so with that combo, you're going to generally have a broken enemy, and then Krolik's going to be able to come in there. She's going to ignore their defense, and she's going to be usually the one to be able to finish them off. If not, then you'll have someone like Jeonju to come in there with her support attack alongside Sharkry to kind of do the extra damage to kill them. And then you also have here, if there are no other allied units within 3 tiles, and generally she's going to be in the front line close to the enemies, so she's not going to be near your teammates who are going to be a little bit more back. She gets 5 tiles of additional movement after using the skill. And so that basically means after she does her attack, she can move 5 tiles. So that's going to be a way for her to get away from this enemy and take cover so she can prevent herself from taking a lot of damage. And so then we go to her second skill here, Quenching Slash. It's another melee debuff skill, does stability damage of 2. It's a cooldown of 3. Select one enemy target within 1 tile, apply Overburn. So this is another skill that can apply Overburn. They'll apply it to it for 2 turns, deal a melee burn damage equal to 160% attack, and gain 2 points of Confectance Index. After the attack, return to the original position before the action. So this is just another skill that can apply that overburn to activate Sharkley's skill, which then can activate Jean-Ju's. And so amazing attack here. And just like the other one, the other skill gives her the ability to run away within 5 tiles. This one means she can come in and hit him with this attack, and then she's going to return to her original position before she attacked. So another way that she's going to jump back out of the range of the enemy, because you'll have her generally under cover before she attacks. And so that'll make her a little bit safer in the long run being a melee unit. So another really good skill there. And then finally, we'll take a look at her ultimate here. And so this one is a slaughter sequence. So this one selects one direction, so top, left, right, or bottom, and moves to the farthest tile within 7 tiles, dealing melee burn damage equal to 130% of its attack to the first enemy encountered. If the target is inflicted with overburn, ignores their cover, damage reduction, and gains 5 tiles additional movement. If the enemy is killed, gain 2 points of Confectance Index. And so this is going to be just another skill to do a significant amount of damage to the enemies. It gives her a little bit of a range to hit that enemy. And then it gives her that additional movement again. So she's going to be able to get away from the enemy after she does the attack. And then if she's able to kill them with this skill, she will be able to get 2 more points of Confectance Index, making it where she's going to be just halfway already to getting access to the skill again. So just another little nice skill there. Being able to do damage to a little bit to a distance and then take cover. And then with that, we'll take a look at her neural helixes here. So when we go to the first one here up at the top, you have evolved node. So this fixed keys momentary focus reduces the Confectance Index consumption of the active skills slaughter sequence by 1 point. So it's just going to reduce that cost. And so you already know that you can, with a kill with it, you can get 2 points back from it. So with this one, it's going to make it that much easier to use that ultimate again right after using it in the first place. So with the right setup, you may be potentially able to just use your ultimate back to back to back over time. So the one here on the bottom, a Fierce Predator, the active skill Crushing Revolution deals a 30% increased damage when hitting a single target. So this one is going to be that AoE attack. If there isn't if there aren't enemies around them to attack, this is just going to make it so it does more damage. This one will kind of be situational, because if I'm going to use that AoE attack, generally I'm going to want to be hitting multiple enemies with it versus just using one of her other skills to do damage to that single target. And we go over to our other skills here. You have the fixed key Blazing Fury. If there are no other allied units within 3 tiles of the user, increases damage dealt by 10%. Her being a melee unit, this is going to be likely. So this one's just going to be a nice increase of 10% damage if you have this one equipped. The one on the bottom here, the Proud Challenger. When the active skill Quenching Slash kills an enemy target, reduces the skill's cooldown by 2 turns. And then look at the top one, fixed key Instinctive Pursuit. At the start of action, if there are enemy units with overburn on the field, it gains Blazing Assault 2 for 2 turns, increases attack by 15%. This is considered a burn buff. This is generally going to be active. She's putting overburn on the enemies, and she has a skill that puts it on the enemies. So at the start of her action, generally you're going to be able to keep this one up. So this is going to be another good one to potentially have equipped on her. And then you have the fixed key Hidden Poise. Before attacking, if this unit moved more than 3 tiles, increase the user's critical rate by 10%. And then you have her common key here. It's a crit one, which are going to be my favorite ones. So you can use this on anyone. And then if under the effects of a burn buff, gains immunity to frozen and frigid and increases damage by 5%. So this one will be fairly easy to trigger, because burn buffs in the burn teams are going to be pretty prevalent. So you're going to be able to trigger this quite often, increase the damage by 5%. But the really big thing here is gains immunity to frozen and frigid. And so this one is going to be very situational in that. But if there is a boss battle where those are statuses that you're really having to deal with, and it's a really tough boss battle, this could be an extremely good common key to have. So if you're just wanting to level her up for the sake of this key, that is one good reason to do it, because there probably will be content in the future where you might just want this key just for that point. Now looking at it, if I was to kind of want to pick and choose, because there's a lot of these that kind of give her buffs and damage, but what I can kind of see What I've looked at on guides online, what a lot of people advise on using on her would be this active skill Crushing Revolution that increases at 30% when hitting a single target, because there are going to be a lot of situations where there's only a single target to hit. So this one is situational. I would take this one off if you think there's going to be a lot of AoE opportunities. But if there's not, this one's just an easy way to make sure that skill is doing good damage, even though it's only hitting one target. You have, this one up here. You're not going to be around allies generally with Krolik, so this one's going to be by default generally a 10% increase in damage, because she's going to be up in the front hitting the enemies, while your other units are all going to have guns and they're going to be a distance away. So that's going to be an easy 10% increase in damage. And then this one up here, because Blazing Assault's just a nice increase to 15%. And it's also considered a burn buff, so that can also trigger her common key if she has that as well. And then Overburn's always going to be on the field. I mean, that's part of her passive. So she's just by default going to have this 15% pretty much at all times. Everything else on here is going to be really situational. And it just kind of really depends on the needs there. So the last thing we'll take a look at is her Fortification here. So for segment 1, so the first dupe, Crushing Revolution. If the target is under the effects of Stability Break, ignore 30% of its defense. I think I've already read that in the kit, because I've already got her first 4. So when I was reading them, I think it already included these first 4. Now, getting the dupes, you're going to get these over time. She's an SR unit. So that one is that part where she's ignoring that 30% defense. Really works really well alongside Sharkry, because she is going to be your stability break unit that's constantly breaking them, especially because she's putting the overburn on them for her. Segment 2 here, damage multiplier increased by 10%, so it just increases that quenching slash by 10% damage. Slaughter sequence, if this kills a target, gain 2 points of confectance index. So when I read that skill, that's just coming from her third dupe there. And then the fourth segment here, range increased by 2 tiles on embers. And this is effectively that part. It really doesn't show it in the description here because I've already had it. But this range here, the effective area of 7. So it increases it by 2 on that overburn that is applied to the closest 2 enemy targets. So this just makes it so it's a lot easier to get it applied to the enemies that are close to her. Her fifth dupe here, if a target is inflicted with overburn, increases critical rate by 100%. So if you have her fifth one here, that actually pretty much makes it where this key, fixed key over here, which one was it? Where was it? Oh yeah, this one right here. Before attacking, if the units move more than 3 tiles, increase crit rate by 10%. Well, if you have her fifth dupe, that one basically makes it no longer needed, because you're generally going to be attacking the enemies that have overburn, and you're going to have a crit rate of 100%. So once you have this dupe, don't even use that fixed key, because it's not going to do anything for her. And then finally, her sixth dupe, when attacking a target with overburn, increases critical damage by 20%. Well, you have a 100% crit rate, so that's just a 20% increase in damage right there. And that pretty much covers Krolik. Yeah, she is going to be inevitably replaced, especially when we get the burn healer that'll be coming up that can apply overburn. And that will work really well with Sharkly and Jeanju. But at this point in time, I know a lot of people, they just got their rerolls. They got Jeanju, they have Sharkly, and they really want to get a core team together. She's going to be a good unit to put with that team. And you won't be... I mean, like I said, there's no reason not to level her. I haven't gotten to it yet just because resources are a little bit limited, and I actually have a lot of SSRs that I'm having to dump my resources in. I will inevitably level her up. The main reason is going to actually be for this common key as well. I mean, I can see this being extremely useful, very situational, but extremely useful in the future when we have a boss fight where these debuffs are being utilized against your team and you just want to make them immune to them with a burn buff. So I can see that one being just that alone being a reason to at least level her up to get that. But yeah, I like the unit. I'm definitely going to build her and try her out alongside Sharkly and Jeanju. Right now, it's just been... It's just worked really out well with me having Tololo and Mozen alongside Suomi, that I really haven't had to build my SR units yet. But if I did not have them, that would be my go-to team right now, is Sharkly and Krolik. But But yeah, to kind of end it there, if you like my content, if you could like, comment, and subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.